It was a Tuesday, the day it happened. The day I made the biggest mistake of my life. It happened when I and my beloved wife Olivia got into an argument and even threw around the word divorce, which now breaks my heart from all we had been through: a 16-year relationship, an 11-year marriage, and having an 8-year-old beautiful daughter named Sarah. When I first met Olivia, it was love at first sight, and from there on out, we were never apart. So now, thinking about this fight brings me to tears. Sarah, who had been listening to the whole fight and couldn't bear to hear it, especially after hearing the word divorce, made her started bursting into tears in her room. Once I had enough of the argument, I barged out, and just before I slammed the door shut, I heard my daughter Sarah yell, "I hate you, Daddy!" I can't even think of that without my eyes watering up, just thinking that she also said Daddy in it. Even though every kid calls their father Daddy, it just seemed special to her. But once I left the house, I went to my favorite bar, which Olivia hated, but she just dealt with it because she loved me. I was drinking until about 3 a.m., and Olivia waited long enough and went to pick me up. She had to bring Sarah because she refused to stay home and made Olivia take her. But once she brought me to the car, I just said, "Give me the damn keys, I'm driving." She looked at me and said, "Nick, you can't drive. You're too drunk." I just shook her off, took the keys, and began to drive. I was swerving all over the road, almost getting into multiple wrecks, running stop signs and running red lights. Olivia even thought we wouldn't make it home in one piece. She knew she had to stop me from driving because if she didn't, she knew we would crash. That's when she jumped into the front seat to try to pry the steering wheel away from me. That was right when we hit a pothole going 80, flipped, and slammed into another family in their car. When I woke up, I asked the doctors, "What happened last night?" Mr. Fuller, you got into an accident killing the whole family in the other car. This is hard to say, but you killed your wife as well and put your daughter in a coma. I refused to believe it, and I started to go crazy. I jumped out of bed and began to run. I didn't make it far because I immediately passed out. It's been a couple of months since the accident. I'm out on bail and I'm awaiting trial for killing my wife and the other family. I have been fired from my job for killing that family and not leaving my daughter's hospital bed. I have never left the chair right next to Sarah's bed. I started to go insane. I think it's because I have sat next to my daughter for so long, who is slowly rotting away. Every single night I will hold her hand and just start to the ball and yell, "Please wake up." I have started to have nightmares about Sarah being killed by me or me waking up to see her dead. So now every single morning I wake up screaming from the horror I experience when I sleep. I have started to lose my mind so much that I imagine Olivia every single day. She will walk into the room and before you know it, I will be having a full-blown conversation with her until the nurse walks in and says, "Mr. Fuller, who are you talking to?" And that's when I look back up to see nothing. A mind is a terrible thing to lose. You can lose your sight, hearing, and sound, but you can't lose your mind. Without that, nothing seems real, and nothing is fake either. You can never tell. You just lose your grip on reality. The doctor walked in saying, "Mr. Fuller, I have terrible news." I was too out of it. I didn't even know who he was. I just answered, "What?" He looked back at me, having to force his words out and say, we have basically given up on Sarah. It's a 95% chance she will not make it. We hope to pull the plug in 24 hours with your consent." I fell to the floor and just began to cry. After about 5 minutes, I was so out of it that I forgot what I was crying about until the doctor told me again. I just asked, "Can I be left alone with her for the night?" He nodded yes and walked out of the room. I began to hold her hand for 5 straight hours, saying, "Please wake up. Please wake up." After a while, I started to give up hope, and that's when I saw a glass bottle on the nightstand by her bed. I stared at it for 15 minutes, thinking of what to do. I gave up and smashed the bottle into pieces. I grabbed a piece of glass and began to cut my wrists. Everything started to become cold and fuzzy. This is the first time I smiled in months, thinking I will finally be with Sarah and Olivia in the afterlife. Just before I finally closed my eyes for my final nap, I heard the sweetest voice saying, "Daddy."